Hi everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to this special Google I/O Tech Talk. This is just one of very few where we invite an external partner to come in and talk about what they're doing with Google products. So my name is Carde. I'm a technical program manager in our Munich office. I work on our Automotive team. And our team focuses on putting the right products and APIs into the hands of car makers to enable awesome Google-powered navigation and infotainment systems. So we have a long history of working with Mercedes. It's been years now. Back in 2008, they were one of the first car companies to launch Send to Car. This is an integration from Google Maps that allows users to send destinations, businesses, directly from Google Maps to their connected car. And they've continued to innovate since then. They've launched Google Local Search and Street View built into a number of their cars. And actually, I believe just yesterday, they announced the new 2014 S-Class with built-in Google Maps. So we're pretty excited about Mercedes' drive, if you will, to integrate connectivity and drive innovation, and that brings us to today. So Daimler came to us with this new smartphone and app-based platform. They'll tell you a lot more about it in their talk, but what excites us is the packaging these features into a smartphone app really enables them to innovate and iterate at a pace that's basically been unheard of in automotive. So we saw this great opportunity to work with them to help them bring connected cars kind of into the reality that our Google Maps users have been experiencing for years now. And that's basically kind of a fast, predictive search for businesses and addresses and a rich visualization of results on a map. So there are probably two types of people in the audience. There are people here who build cars, and there are people here who build other things. And I've talked to a number of people at the show. It's probably the people who build cars are in the minority. We've asked Mercedes to kind of split the difference because there's some interesting stories they can tell about automotive challenges, but we'd also like them to provide kind of this broadly applicable case study for how they've taken the Google Maps and Places APIs and built this kind of rich, beautiful product of their own. So without further delay, I'd like to hand it over to Cal Moss and Mike Cheng from Mercedes, and they will tell you about the digital DriveStyle app.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming today to listen to us. I will walk you through our experience implementing Google Places and the API, and I will hand the microphone after that to Mike Cheng, who's leading the development in our team at Mercedes-Benz to dive deeper into the code and talk about some of his experiences with the code. I work for Mercedes-Benz Research and Development North America. Our office is actually in Palo Alto, south from here, and we, as Chris said, we've been working with Google for a while. So actually, when you buy a Mercedes-Benz car today, it comes equipped with some of Google services already. The way it works today is that we have an embedded head unit. There is a head unit that is already coming with the car. Head unit is what you used to call, in the old days, radio. It's now a computer running multiple different features in the car. We offer the Google services, different Google services as a browser-based services within that embedded head unit. We get the connectivity either via Bluetooth phone, kind of paired to the car, or via an embedded telephony in North America using Embrace system that we have for safety features. What the features that are offered usually in these cars, you get Google Local Search, you get Street View, you get Panorama, and if you are buying the new S-Class that was just released yesterday, you get also Google Maps and a full implementation of Google Maps. So we know that people come to the car with their smartphones, and there is always a question of what people or what drivers actually want when they get into the car with their smartphone. In most of the cars today, you will be able to access your contents from your phone. So you have some private contents, you have your music, you can access your music, for example, you can access your address book, you can make phone calls, but drivers want more. And there is a study that actually was conducted by J.D. Power. They actually went to drivers who have navigation systems in their car, and they asked them, what do they want? And what they got back from drivers is that they want an easy and feature-rich smartphone integration. It's not just about contents from the smartphone. They want the features from smartphone to be integrated, and they want it to be easy, and that's a key word here. They want to use smartphone for navigation. So those are actually drivers, not in Mercedes-Benz cars, but in all different cars. 47% of them downloaded a navigation app and used it while they have actually an embedded navigation experience in their cars. There is some kind of growing preference for navigation apps running on smartphones. And when the study dived deeper into the reason for that, they found that destination input and selection is a major pain point for drivers. 6 out of the top 10 problems with the navigation system they cited in that study were actually related to input and selection of this destination. The study concludes with this statement: one-shot destination entry is the dream. So that's what we have out there from that study by J.D. Power. So we looked at what we have internally. We have a system that's running on a smartphone. The system is called Digital DriveStyle. It's an application, runs on the smartphone. With that, once you run on a smartphone, you get the quick update cycle, which basically you can virtually release a new version of the application every couple of weeks if you want to. And that helps us and offers us an opportunity to continue the innovation cycle with that. We can add features, we can modify features, and we can adjust to customers' demand very quickly. We also are able to harness the power of the smartphone. It's not a secret to anyone here that smartphone is leading in the hardware and software areas and innovations today. They are running now very, very powerful processors, and as you probably can see around us outside this room, lots of things are running around the platforms itself, like Android platform, for example. We brought all of these advantages of smartphone and the ecosystem of smartphone applications, and we run this in the car. So once you get into the car, you connect your phone to the car. You actually use the car displays. You use the system like the audio system in the car, the speakers in the car, the microphone in the car, the input mechanism of the car. So you don't touch the phone once you get into the car. The whole logic is coming from the phone. All the screens are actually rendered on the phone, but you don't even feel that as you are driving your car and interacting with the system. The specific application here, the digital DriveStyle that you see, it has 3 main categories of features. It has social, it has media, and it has places. And social is basically let you access, give you a safe way to access, non-distracting way to access your social networks, media networks. For example, you can access your Facebook, you can access your Twitter feed, you can access also your Google+, as we show actually in the vehicles out there. Media will let you access your onboard media if you have some music stored on the phone, some files that you purchased on the phone, or you can also access your connected music, like internet radio. You can access your personalized radio, so that's also possible with this application. Places is a complete turn-by-turn navigation onboard, and onboard here means on the phone itself. So we have the maps locally stored on the phone, and we have the whole navigation engine and destination route matching and destination entry on the phone. That product is actually available on iPhone. It's already released last year. It's available in about 20 different markets, and we started from that. We looked at that, and we are actually in the process of developing the Android version of these two to run on Android phones. But that's what we have out there. And we looked into what we can do with that and what we can add into this. So the first thing that we, of course, thought about is how to make that onboard navigation engine that is not connected. How do we make it a hybrid navigation engine? How do we add the connectivity piece of it to interact with Google Places and become basically a hybrid navigation system? So we did a lot of things, and you can watch them and experience them in the car that we brought out in the sandbox area of Google Maps. But I will focus here, and we will focus our talks on 3 different things we consider kind of major, and we would like to discuss this with you today. The one thing that stands out is a single text box-based destination entry. Basically, what you have in Google Maps for years is now available in the car. You don't have to think about, I'm going to search, or I'm going to search to input an address book, input a street address. You don't have to think about these things. You just type what you want, and the system has the autocomplete function powered by Google Places API to find what you want. And in a few clicks, as you are trying to find the address, the Google will propose for you, Google Places API will propose for you a few selections that you pick up the destination from. That was actually one of the new things that we tried to address based on the studies that we saw from JD Power, and we are happy to have it today in our cars. And these 6 of the top 10 major problems that customers are complaining from probably are gone with this. The second thing is, once you are in the car and you're actually driving from point A to point B, you probably want to know more about point A or point B or something in between. So we offer you this kind of rich metadata and visual information that helps you while you are driving to get more information about your drive experience. So we enable you to review Google Plus local photos. We enable you to browse street views around the destination that you're going to. If you are actually driving to a business location, we let you see the ratings or the opening hours. Of course, you can make phone calls and call and order pizza if you're going to a pizza place to pick up your pizza or make a reservation in a restaurant. And at the end of the day, you most likely want to navigate, so we'll let you navigate, get of course, turn-by-turn direction to the destination. And in many other cases, you just want to glance and get an idea about your surrounding environment. So we added the ability to overlay real-time information on Google Maps. So you can actually just glance and see the weather in the area around you, or you can see the traffic situation in the area around you. So that's the third thing that I would like to discuss and highlight today here in the talk. There were some challenges, of course, like any other interesting development project. And I will talk about some of the automotive-related challenges that we faced. In automotive, in anything we do, there are few challenges that come, whether we integrate with Google or we integrate with other features and service providers. The automotive-related challenges that we have, one of them is the reliability requirements. You all have probably, not too many of you developed automotive applications before, but all of you drive car. As you're driving the car, the last thing you expect is to have a system that hangs in the car, or the need to restart a system in the car. That's completely unacceptable and unheard of, and customers do not expect that and will not allow that. So that's a little bit different. We all want to develop bug-free features and applications, but the reality is there are few bugs. How you judge those bugs, some of the things that you might look at in mobile environment, like on a smartphone, like something that you can fix in the next release, we cannot release with. It's a showstopper for us. We stop. We have to fix them. So reliability requirements here are extremely high in automotive environment, even though the app is running on smartphone. But once you get in the car, you see it on the car display. So it's a part of the car system, and the expectations of customers are different. The second thing is the release cycle. We, of course, can update the app every couple of weeks on the phone. But what happens on the car side? The app has to talk to some hardware on the car side. And that hardware somehow is also related to the car development cycle. And the car development cycle, as you all know, is probably between 3 to 4 years. We can release an app every couple of weeks. So how do we match these two different cycles? So that's an issue that we had to deal with. We have also that hardware that lives in the car to receive the contents from the applications and display them on the car side. It has to be automotive grade. And automotive grade means many different things. The hardware to be automotive grade means lots of different things. But in general, it's about temperature range. It has to work in Alaska. It has to work in Mojave Desert. If you leave the car for a week there, it has to work everywhere in extreme heat and extreme cold environments. It has to work under different conditions of vibrations. If you're driving on a concrete road, on a dirt road, on an asphalt road, different conditions for vibrations, it has to follow and work within an environment that's very challenging from emission point of view. There are so many other things for automotive-grade hardware that we actually have to follow and make sure our hardware will actually become, at the end of the day, an automotive-grade hardware. What that means is that we cannot just tap to existing pool of hardware that's available out there. For any hardware to be put in the car, it has to go through a very rigid and tedious process of being qualified as an automotive-grade hardware, and maybe even change it to become an automotive-grade hardware, which makes it, of course, a little bit more expensive, and also makes it a little bit late to come to the market. So I cannot just tap to the chipset that was just released last week and put it in my car. I will have to take it into a process to make it an automotive-grade hardware. Last but not least, the driver distraction. As you are inside your car, you are driving. That's the main job of every driver, is to drive, eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. Anything else is actually secondary. Anything else is background. So our application has to function in a way that's not distracting for the driver. And that is itself is a big challenge, because even though there are guidelines, interpreting the guidelines and following the guidelines is a big challenge. There are AM guidelines in North America, there is ISO guidelines in Europe, there is JAMA guidelines in Japan, and we follow all these guidelines and we design the app to satisfy all these guidelines. Now, some challenges are also related to how you implement Google Places API in that environment. And the first one is the end-to-end use case. We are actually stitching two things together. We are still using the onboard navigation maps and onboard navigation core, and actually augmenting that and adding to that the information and the experiences that we're getting from Google Places API. And at the end of the day, customers does not need to worry about that, does not need to care about that. The customer needs just end-to-end experience that's smooth and seamless. And that provided a challenge for us. The second thing is the reality of cellular coverage. It's not a secret that you are driving in the United States, especially in many areas that do not have a good cellular coverage. You get from 3G to 2G, and then sometimes you get to 0. There is no G at all. There is nothing. There is no connectivity at all. And if you are in the middle of destination entry and you're making a request to Google backend to get the information, and you lost, and you lose connectivity, what are you going to do? So the fallback scenarios and how you gracefully fall back when you make requests and you don't get an answer, and how the user will see that in front of it is a great challenge here, because customers expect the system to work, obviously. Then, assuming that we solved the end-to-end use case problem and we have a good coverage, and you got the information, now how can you stitch all these different databases together? There are these databases, they have different format, they are optimized for different conditions, and just trying to get the right information to show in the right location is a challenge in itself. So how did we think about ways to make a successful automotive app in general? How did we do that? For DriveStyle app, we developed a strategy that's based on very few requirements. The first one is that to focus on user experience, not number of features. So we actually have access to a huge number of features, and we pick and choose few of them. We don't offer everything, we offer few of them. If for some of you it makes sense to have 200 different apps on your phone, probably for many of you, you wouldn't need that in the car. You need few that are done right, and that's what we're focusing on here. We focus on social. We know that people now, they have their own digital lifestyle, and we know that the car is part of that, and in many cases that goes around social. So in the digital DriveStyle, we made sure that your navigation is part of your social experience. Your media is part of your social experience, and vice versa. So social is a core component in everything we do. Context is also extremely important in car environment, because you don't have a lot of time to choose. from multiple options. So we use context here to limit the number of things. So when you do search for pizza, we don't show you the pizza everywhere around in the United States. We show you just the pizza around you, around your location, because most likely that's what you're looking for. So context is extremely important in that regard. We don't develop the app and then adjust it to satisfy driver distraction requirements. We don't do that, or to avoid driver distraction. We don't do that. We actually design the app from the beginning. One of the input and constraints in the design is the driver distraction guidelines. So we start with that, not end with that. And that's extremely important because it's in the DNA of the app itself, that it will run in a car. Then we keep as much as possible logic and information on the phone side, because we know that is the side that we control better. We can update that much faster. There is some software, of course, living on the hardware in the car, but we minimize that to the minimal amount in order to be able to innovate much faster, independent of the car. What is the long-term goal? What we want at the end of the day, at one point, is a seamless experience in navigation and in everything else. So you basically don't have to send information from your laptop to the car, or from your phone to the car. We want the information to be available. We want one state for your navigation, whether you are working on your desktop, or working on your laptop, on your smartphone, or you are actually getting in the car. The state is maintained, and the state is available for you, for navigation and for other features too. So that's what we would like to have at the end. And we will get there. We'll get to that point eventually. So I would like now to pass the microphone to Mike Cheng from our team to talk a little bit about the implementation.
Great. Thanks, Cal. So I'd like to share with all of you some of our experiences and lessons learned in developing the DriveStyle application and bringing the Places APIs into this product. I'd like to cover how to improve traditional address entry and destination entry. And then we'll move on and talk a little bit about how to create a system that's connected and brings information from the web into the product. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Google Maps solutions that we use in the digital DriveStyle app. So let's start with the destination entry. This screen is probably familiar to a lot of you. It's the traditional address entry flow. So at the top, you have an entry field for state, and then you select a city, and then you select a street, and then if you want, you can go select a house number, and even after that, you can select an intersection if you wanted to. This is a really tedious process because each entry that you go into, you need to then go into the speller and type it out, and this is so tedious to use while driving that according to the AAM standards in the US, it's not allowed while driving. So you need to be stopped on the side of the road or in your garage, for example. But I think the bigger issue here is that people don't really use street addresses anymore. Just like how on your phone, you have phone numbers, but you get the phone number from your friend once, and then it's stored. It's stored on your device. It's stored in the cloud somewhere. It's stored in your social network. So what can we do to improve the experience? So we took a close look at how Google kind of manages this product. So we look to Google Maps online. And we really want this experience of, instead of telling my navigation system where I want to go, I should tell it what I want to do. The solution should help me reduce the number of inputs that I need to enter. So you see here that I type in COF, and already I have suggestions for coffee shops and businesses matching coffee. And most importantly, we need to make this safe to use while driving. So with that in mind, we've taken advantage of the Places Query Autocomplete APIs. It's a really nice API that returns us a mixed list of query suggestions, so Coffee Bean, coffee shops, as well as a few business names, so Coffee Inc. and Coffee Bar. You see on the right here that it's not limited to just queries. You can actually start typing in an address, so 800H matches to 800 Howard Street, which is actually the address for the Moscone Center for people who don't know addresses. If I type in 850, it immediately matches our office in Palo Alto at 850 Hanson Way. And so typically with 3 or 4 characters, I can actually get exactly what I want. And this enables a user experience that's much more similar to Google Maps than what we had before. So let's take a look at what happens underneath, just at a very high level. At the top, you see boxes for the Google Places queries that we make. These are API endpoints that we have access to. At the bottom, you get an example of the responses coming back from these queries. So if we type in the example from before, COF, we put this into the Places query autocomplete. The autocomplete API returns us the list of Coffee Bean, coffee shops, Coffee Inc., Coffee Bar. But these are just string results, so it doesn't have a lot of metadata. It doesn't have any metadata associated with it. So the next step that we need to take is we need to take that coffee query completion and then put it into the place search API. So this place search API will actually return me businesses or establishments or street addresses, for example. You see here that there's some duplication, so the 2 items on the bottom for the query autocomplete also show up for place search, so we'll try to optimize for that a little bit. But the place search will give us a reference that we can then put into the place details API to get back rich metadata about this location, such as the lat long, the opening hours, review data, and so on. So actually what's new since about 2 days ago, the Places query autocomplete API response does return you the reference for locations such as 800 Howard Street. So this is really handy because in our flow that we saw before, we basically remove an entire step. So that's an entire request to the network, and you need to wait for a response. We've simplified it from 3 requests down to 2. So that's really helping us in improving the performance for our customers. And I'll talk a little bit later about why you should not count on the network being there. So here we have a comparison video. On the left, you have the traditional address entry, and then on the right, you have the address entry powered by Google. I'll play this video really quick. Watch the right very closely because it goes quick. On the left side, it takes a little bit longer, and you'll see. So here we go. On the right side, we have a search field. We type in 1, and immediately we have 1600 Amphitheater Parkway. We select it, and then we calculate a route, and we're done. So that was about 10 seconds. On the left, we're still typing in Amphitheater. Okay. House number 1600. Okay. And there we go. So on the right, with the Places API, we've cut down the amount of time it takes to enter an address by 1/3, or by 2/3. So the one on the right takes 10 seconds, the one on the left takes 30 seconds. So we expect this to be a huge improvement to the product. We expect it to be the best implementation, actually, of destination entry in any automotive product when it's released next month. So let's talk about going beyond street addresses. So again, we look at the Google Maps APIs again, and Google Maps web service, and we see that we have a lot of social features. So you see that we have Street View here, we have photos, we have reviews and ratings. So this is how we've brought this into our product. Using the Place Details API, you get all of this information for star ratings and opening hours. We also get the Google Plus local photos back, which is very nice. It feels like you've been to that location without actually having been there. And of course, the immersive Google Street View experience, which I highly recommend everybody to go to our SL550 outside to experience for yourself. A little bit about blending online data with offline maps. Don't count on having a network connection. You could be driving through the desert or driving through the forest or coming to Google I/O. Where there's no network connection whatsoever. Cache as much as you can. Cache aggressively. Don't block or restrict the UI or the flow if you don't have a network connection, because customers absolutely hate that. Map data can be different or incomplete. So with an off-board solution where you're grabbing everything from the internet, the data is always constantly updating. And in markets such as China, actually, there are actually lots of changes being made to the infrastructure constantly. So streets are being built, businesses are moving around, and it's most likely not going to match your onboard data. And then finally, be careful with geocodes and reverse geocodes. If you have an address and you convert that into a lat long, don't convert it back to an address. It's not going to be the same address. Just be consistent in how you store this information and how you present it to the user. And then finally, unique maps. Our product actually takes advantage of the Google Maps SDK for iOS. It's a really nice library that you can integrate into your product. You link a few libraries and you reference a resource bundle and you're basically ready to go. It matches very closely to other map frameworks, so you get access to all of these 3D buildings and traffic layers and map types. And finally, we have our Heatmap concept, which is based off of the Places API radar search. The radar search was actually initially released by Google in January of this year. We'll be the first automotive manufacturer actually to take advantage of these APIs. What the API does is it returns you a point cloud of 200 locations around a certain location. So we can generate these density maps based off of the data. So you see the white spots here are higher density, and then the darker spots are lower density. And it really gives you an idea of the character of a certain location if you haven't been there before. Just a quick note on the JavaScript API that JavaScript Maps API that we use for City Guide. One technique that we've actually used is instead of referencing image data stored on disk, we base64 encode all of the image data and feed it directly into the JavaScript API. This gives us a few advantages. The JavaScript API, we can send this image data without a network connection. So once your maps have loaded, then you can basically change the overlay as often as you want. And the second point is that you have no need to save the image data to disk, so you gain some performance improvements there. And that's pretty much it. So thanks a lot. We've hopefully given you some insight in how we've developed the digital DriveStyle app, and please stop by our sandbox demo.
So it looks like we've got about 7 minutes left for questions. We have 2 microphones set up in the aisles, and if anyone would like to come up, this is your chance to ask an automaker anything about navigation or infotainment. Anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, I got a couple use cases that seem to be pretty common when I want to go somewhere in my car. One, someone texts me an address, and then I've got to somehow put that in either the car nav or my phone, and that's pretty annoying. And 2, I'm at my desktop, I find somewhere I want to go, do all my navigation, figure out my route. Now I've got to somehow get that into my car too. Is there any way, or do you foresee, some way of making that transparent, transparently enter it into the car nav so that there's maybe no UI and it just somehow gets there, or how would you handle that, I guess?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting problem, one that we're hoping to solve. We've kind of handled the problem the opposite way, so we've integrated Glimpse into our product. And what this does is that we can actually send our current location to a third party so that they know where you are at least. I think the next step to that is to bring it the other way around so that somebody can send you a destination or you can send yourself a destination.
And I should point out that Google Maps does already have a feature called Send to Car. And we do integrate with a number of automakers to allow you to send an address directly from Google Maps to a connected vehicle.
Okay. Another question. What about voice control integration in the car? I'm just represent the company that developed personal assistant for the car called Robin. So it's
the application itself today runs on the iPhone. We have Siri integration completely integrated in the product. On the Android version that we are working on, we are looking into integrating the Google Voice as part of that. you have text-to-speech built in Onboard. So there is always text-to-speech to read stuff back to you, to read your Facebook postings and different informations to you. But more than that, just for the interaction itself, we're going to depend on the embedded, or not embedded, but the voice integration that comes with the phone itself.
Okay, my look in our products also, it's quite sophisticated.
Hi, you mentioned having to comply with automotive-grade hardware. What about the consumer-provided cell phone? Is that considered automotive-grade, or did you have to do anything special for that?
No, of course, the phone itself is whatever phone you buy. It is usually not automotive grade. Today, you still have to plug the phone, but we offer we offer the phone a place where you can plug it close to you, like in the armrest, for example, where you can plug it. Usually, you don't leave a phone in the car. And that's a huge difference from the hardware itself. The hardware is always in the car. When you park the car in the desert for 10 hours, it is there. But your phone is always in your pocket. And that's why the problem is not that severe with the phone. The phone is usually with you, and once you come into the car, the phone is usually within your vicinity, and that's always air-conditioned and in a nice environment that doesn't really have to satisfy lots of automotive-grade requirements.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi there. I'm interested to know where you think it will be in, say, 5 years down the line. What's your ambition for the socialization of the automotive experience at Mercedes-Benz? And is that something you think will develop in partnership with Google? And I'm kind of interested to know how experimental you are right now with all of these restrictions you also have to consider.
Yeah, we are as open as we can be, let's say. We look into this seamless experience, really. We think the car is part of your digital lifestyle. We need to maintain the state. I want to have one state for everything. Whatever you do on the phone, I want it to be available in the car without you sending anything back and forth. So that is what I'm looking at, is that whatever the next greatest applications and features that Google will come up with and other companies will come up with, I want these to be immediately available in the car without need to synchronize and send things back and forth. So that's, I think, where we can go. And what we're trying to do is to develop a platform that we can easily provide that. So it's a platform that runs on a phone, so I can always push the newest and greatest update to it. I open information on the car side as much as possible, so I can take advantage of the sensors in the car and merge that with all the information that comes from the back end. The vision that we have for the car really is that the car is, at the end of the day, is your friend. It knows about you, it knows about your customs and habits, it knows about what you did on your phone a few minutes ago, and you should not come to the car every time and start from zero again. You should just continue what you've been doing as you get in the car. The only difference, of course, is that you're driving. So that's our job, is to make sure that you can continue what you're doing, but in a safe, non-distracting way.
And in the future, is it planned to be across every single variation of Mercedes vehicle?
Well, actually, the app is offered now in most of our car lines.
Okay.
So it's offered in the A-Class, B-Class, E-Class, and CLA, and going, like, we're offering it one by one to all different models. So that's the target, yes. There is a heavy focus, of course, on the new cars. It's a little bit hard to go backward and try to offer it for existing cars on the road for 10 years. But that's part of what we're trying to do, is that once we offer it now, it will actually live with you in the coming few years. And even 5 years from now, you can still have the latest and greatest experience in a car that you bought 5 years ago.
Great, thanks.
Okay, well, I think we're just about out of time. Thank you very much for coming, and hopefully we'll be, actually, I think we'll be available in the sandbox area for at least 15 minutes, 30 minutes thereafter to answer questions. So come see us, come see the demo. And well, thanks again.